Last year, Siegfried and Roy, as all of you know, received the award. They were terrific. And they were so impressed and so excited that Donald Trump was getting it this year and wanted to send him a letter. I want to read the letter very briefly, Donald. It says, "Dear Donald, to a fellow landsman, even so we are American, it is great to be linked together by our heritage. You can take the man out of Germany, but you can't take the Germany out of the man. Our heartfelt congratulations to you for being recognized for your contribution to the making of America. We applaud you. It couldn't happen to a better man. With magical respect and admiration, the one and only Siegfried and Roy." Congratulations, Donald. And Bill, would you like to present the award, and then we'll have Donald say a few words. We have a beautiful, beautiful award, and I know, Donald, you've gotten a lot of awards in your day. But I think it's so wonderful. I didn't know, here I am a journalist, I didn't know all the background of your amazing heritage. I know what your father's accomplished, but you have such a great, incredible line of heritage and spirit within your family going back so many generations. And now I know where you got your great spirit from, and we're so honored to be with, to have you here today and take the time out of your very busy schedule with #1 Apprentice upstairs and everything else. I hope you're all watching Apprentice, are you? It's amazing. The #1 show on television, because it hit #1, it constantly stays in the top 10, and it is because of you. So all of you, please give an enormous round of applause. Mr. Bill Hetzler presenting to Donald and Melania.
Thank you, Rita. Welcome to the German American Hall of Fame.
I think Bill is having a good time. I think he's having a good time. Turn this mic on, Bill. Let's get with it. Come. Is this one okay? Come on.
They're both on.
Okay.
They're both on.
So, I want to thank everybody. Rita's been my friend for so long, and I listen to your show all the time on radio, and I love it. And boy, do I know where you're coming from, right? So you have to be happy over the last week or so. And Bill, you've been amazing. Bill called me a number of years ago, and he knows George Steinbrenner, who's a great friend of mine. He said, "We want to make him the Grand Marshal of our great parade." And I called George, and I said, "George, he doesn't do this stuff." He was actually shy. People don't know this about George. George Steinbrenner was a very shy man, but he was a great guy and a great friend if he was your friend. He had about 4 friends. But if he was your friend, there was nobody better. And we made him the Grand Marshal. I call it the German Day Parade. And frankly, I'll never forget George's statement. He said, "It's the only parade in the country where as the parade is going through and as it's ending, the street is actually cleaner." Little truth to that, right? Huh? No, it's true. The street is cleaner after the parade is over. Every other parade is not quite that way. But I'm looking here, and I want to thank, where's John Wolter? He worked so hard on this. Where is he? Right here. John, come here. This is my cousin. He is an amazing guy, truly loves Germany. Would you say that's a correct statement? He loves Germany. And he said, they cut him down from 28 pages. Thank goodness you cut him down. Because he doesn't do this too often. They cut him down from 28 pages to 2, right? Thank goodness. But you did a great job, John. Were you nervous? No. Good. He's a great German, and he loves Germany. Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Great job. I do have a wonderful wife, Melania. Come here, Melania. Get up here. I mean, if I bring John up here, I have to bring my wife, right, John? Come here. She was so successful. She was so amazing. And then one day she had a beautiful little baby named Baron, and that's what she likes to do. Is that a correct statement? And she's a great wife. Thank you. Thank you. So, Bill called up, and he said, "We'd like you to put you in the Hall of Fame." And I looked, and I said, "Give me some of the names." That is an amazing group of names. Walter Chrysler, Walter Cronkite, a friend of mine, Dr. Albert Einstein, Dwight Eisenhower, John Kluge, whose house I just bought in Virginia, by the way. George Herman, you don't know him as George Herman, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was a pretty good hitter. Life is interesting. They asked Babe, because Babe had more home runs than most of the teams in the league put together. And they said, babe, how do you hit the long ball? How do you hit the home run? And he said, I don't know, man, I just swing at it. You know, it's called natural talent. But Babe Ruth was a great German, and George Steinbrenner and others. So it really is, for me, an amazing honor. And I have to tell you, Bill works so hard and so diligently. And honestly, if somebody else would have called, I probably would have said no. When you call, I don't even think about it. We don't have the courage to say no to this man. Right? Right, Rita? So, Bill, some of my children are here. I just saw Don, and you know, we just are taping right now. In fact, I left the boardroom. I'm supposed to be doing a firing tonight. I left the boardroom. Because if I don't, Bill's gonna fire me, right? Right, Melania? I'll be in deep trouble. But we're just shooting The Apprentice, 13th season, tremendous hit. It was actually the #1 show on television. Now it's the #1 show after 13 seasons, #1 show on Sunday night. We've had an amazing time with The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, and it's been a lot of fun. But Bill, I want to thank you, because it really is an honor. All of my life, you know, I grew up, had a great father and a great mother. Now my mother, I hate to tell you this, she was from Scotland. That's like a horrible thing when he hears Scotland, he might take the award away. Right? But she was great, and you know, the Scottish people are amazing. They were great warriors, and my mother was a warrior. She's one of the only people I knew that could handle my father, right, John? And my father was so proud of his German heritage. And he was a great man and a great guy for getting things done. He could get things done like nobody. And I grew up and I'd listen to him negotiate with a bricklayer or with a plumber, and I sort of like, by osmosis. It wasn't like he was teaching me, but he was teaching me. And I learned so much from my father. And he loved Germany, and he loved the German people. So on behalf of my mother and my father, on behalf of my wife, on behalf of John Wolter and the entire family, because he had, I want to tell you, John had one great family. Do you agree with that? They're going one by one, John, they're leaving us. Yeah. But John had some family. I just want to, on behalf of all of us, I want to accept this award. And Bill, I want to thank you in particular. You have really done an amazing job for a long time. I knew him when he had dark, beautiful hair. And you still look great, okay? But I just want to thank you very much, Bill. Thank you.
He is considered sort of the historian of the Trump family, and we're really looking forward to hearing about Mr. Trump's past. We all know about this incredible businessman, this incredible American, and someone who we are really, really delighted to have with us in just a few minutes. And if we could bring up now Mr. John W. Wolter, he's Donald Trump's cousin and the Trump family historian, everybody.
Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here to talk about Donald's and my past. The Trump family heritage is all about apprenticeship, if that word means anything to you upstairs. Our grandfather, Frederick Trump, Fritz as he was called, was born in Karlstadt, Germany in March 1969 in a small town in the Rhine-Pfalz that grows wine. Fritz had three older sisters and two older brothers, and his father died when he was 8 years old. Our grandmother, Elizabeth Christ, called Lisset, was born October 10th in 1880, and her home was just across the street from the Trump home. Fritz was known as a brilliant student, the best in his class. We have many old letters talking about how smart he was, but he wanted to be a teacher instead of a wine grower because he just wasn't built to be a farmer. When his mother asked his teacher if he could get a scholarship to the university, she was told, "Mrs. Trump, if one has no money, one has to forget about hard learning." When Fritz heard this, he said, "I'm going to get myself an apprenticeship in the next town and become a barber," which he did. Two of his older sisters had written to Fritz that America was the place for enterprising young men. 18 years old, and they had sent him the proper papers to get to the United States, and he left for America in 1885. When he arrived, he got the promised job as a barbershop in New Jersey, and after several months he decided barbering didn't pay enough, so he apprenticed himself to a German restaurant owner in New Jersey to learn the restaurant and chef business. 3 years later, the restaurant owner asked to be his partner in the business, and the restaurant was expanded. At only 19 years old, Fritz was already making a good income and sending money back to his mother in Karlstadt. But Fritz started looking west. He knew Seattle was an upcoming town with great promise, so he decided to go there. Finally, in 1896, with a signed deal as an equal partner to a Seattle German restaurant owner, he cashed out his partnership in New Jersey. With a sizable amount of cash, went to Seattle. Together, the partners bought and sold restaurants as they came closer and closer to the docks. That's where the action was. On January 27th, 1897, he was appointed a Justice of the Peace in the town of Monte Cristo. Then came the news in July 1897 that gold was struck in the Klondike. He was in the best place at the best time. He was even trusted by the miners to keep gold in his safe. In short, he was a man who could be trusted, honest, and knew how to run well-respected, clean, and proper restaurants. But that wasn't good enough, so he moved up to Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory to be closer to the miners, and he built the Arctic Hotel, and soon after, the Arctic Restaurant next door. They both were listed in the Yukon Directory as being just across the train depot, the best location in town. In 1902, Fred returned to Karlstadt to be best man at a Fred's wedding. Upon his arrival, he spotted Lisette Christ, the once young neighbor that lived across the street. She was only 5 years old then when he left America, but now she was 22 and a beautiful blonde. Fred was now 33 and smitten. So when Fred returned to Whitehorse, he started writing letters back and forth to Lisette. Fred wasn't one to give up, and he proposed to her by letter, and she finally accepted. But there was still one problem. Lisette did not want to go to America. Fred had to stay in Germany if they were going to be married. So Fred said, well, we have to sell everything, and it's going to take me a couple of years. She said, well, if you promise that you can do it in 2 years or less, I will marry you. Fred agreed, and the marriage took place in Ludwigshafen on August 30th, 1902. When they arrived in America, Fred went about selling off his assets as he said he would, and they had a nice home in Woodhaven, Queens, and he turned his attention to buying vacant land and building houses on them in partnerships with other builders. They were going well, and on April 30th, 1904, my mother Elizabeth was born, but the 2-year deal was only 4 months off. Fred was true to his word. The Trump family had to return to Karlstadt. On August 8th, 1904, the 2-year date was met. Fred, Lisette, and 4-month-old Elizabeth arrived in Karlstadt and reported their arrival to the Karlstadt mayor and the police. And now Fred requested his family to be able to live in Karlstadt, and it was submitted through the mayor's office up the range. 12 separate documents during the next 10 months of red tape had been written to try to get permission to stay in Germany. The problem was Fred had become an American citizen, renounced his German citizenship, and had not fulfilled his required German military requirements. He wrote a final-ditch request written in Fred's writing to the German citizen that he wanted to be a German citizenship to the government of Palestine, Prince Regent Leopold of Bavaria. The prince's reply to Fred's long pleading letter was denied, and Fred was ordered to be deported on or before July 1st, 1905. But his wife and daughter can stay because they're still Germans. The Trump family left for America on July 1st, never to return. Fate took its turn. The prince said no. If the prince had said yes, then Donald and I would never have been born, and there would be no Trump Tower, and we wouldn't be talking tonight. Thank you.